my routine every Saturday as a young adolescent, I would skip or like change the channel between Much Loud, Saturday Night Live, and Mad TV.
Amazing.
And I always remember this one segment, and for the first time, I heard Slayer Seasons in the Abyss, and you pitched that, and I was hypnotized to the fucking TV. And I don't know if you were involved with the programming or whatever, but I always credited George for showing me Slayer and changing my life.
Dude, I picked every video that went on Loud. I picked every video that went on the Punk Show. There was a brief moment where my friend Alex, who was producing with me, picked songs, but we did it together. But Much Music, the bosses didn't see Loud or the Punk Show until it went to air. And half the time, I would say 95% of the time, they never watched Loud. It wasn't their thing. But when I was offered the job at Much, it was to host the new music. And I had said to them, you know, sure, I love the new music, but I'm only going to take this job if I get to take and host Loud as well. And nice. So they said, sure, if you want to. And because metal, as you know, is my thing. Yeah, but dude, you can Seasons of the Abyss. Ooh, that South of Heaven, like Slayer. I'm from that era where the big four, well, really to me, it's only the big three, 2.5, 3. Mm-hmm. But that thrash sound of the 80s was so metal, and Slayer, oh my God. I flew to LA to watch the last Slayer show ever.
Oh, wow. Yeah, right on, right on. That's.
I'm glad. Listen, of all the shows I've ever done in my career, the thing that makes me the happiest is when people say they watch Loud or the Punk Show. To me, I'm seriously like, I had a talk show. I hosted Hockey Night in Canada. I was on scene, all that stuff. That's fine. And I'm grateful that anybody connects with me in any way. But when someone says they grew up watching Loud or the Punk Show, I feel like that's it. That's the connection I wanted when I was a kid, sharing music like that.
Oh, that's amazing, man. And even like I can tell like or this is something I thought over the years as you were doing like the hour and Hockey Night in Canada too. I was always thinking, oh, maybe George was just like a talking head for Loud and everything, but it's cool to hear like that other side of it. But I can tell it's in your veins because even how you present your YouTube channel, the House of Strombo, you've had like Power Trip in your kitchen and Behemoth in your basement, and it's the real deal, man.
Oh no, dude, I'm metal as fuck, and that was the best part about being on the hour in Hockey Night in Canada. It was like there's about time there was a metal and punk guy or metal and punk person who got lucky enough to be in those positions, right? Yeah, no, for sure. Music has always been the thing that drives me, and so I love film as pretty much as much. But I've always felt like the music was the thing that kept me going, you know. And you know, Hockey Night Canada, like on my own talk show, dude, we did a whole episode on June 6, 2006, on the hour, which was because it was 666 the date. We had the Black Pope, who is Peter Gilmore, the head of the Church of Satan, was on. We had Tom Araya from Slayer on.
Oh, shit.
You name me one other news talk show on a news channel in the world that would do that.
I know. And even like
it's cool too because you with the hour too, you became like beloved with so many different demographics. It wasn't no longer the punk and metal anymore. You just branched out into like it just kind of, in my opinion, became like this Canadian national treasure of interviewing. And you've talked to everybody from directors to musicians. And over the years of doing the hour, is there like one specific segment that pops out in your brain, or even like beyond the hour, a special like interview that's been your all-time favorite?
You know, there's not one there because there's so many. You know, interviewing Patti Smith, interviewing Michael J. Fox. Michael J. Fox is a philosopher, and when you get into his sphere, he's really amazing. So John Waters was incredible to interview. I remember I interviewed June Callwood, this really important social activist in Toronto, and she was diagnosed with a terminal cancer. She was nearing the end and wanted to do one last interview. And so we did it a few days before she went into palliative care, and that was really heavy.
Oh, wow.
I really enjoyed that experience as a human being, like to have that kind of, when you strip away all the bullshit and all the artifice of life and you have two people just talking about something so real, that really resonated with me. We once did an entire episode of the show. This is not nearly as serious, but it was to me. Maybe my favorite thing was that every single person on the show that night, every guest, every segment was at one point on The Wire. So
no way.
I interviewed Omar from The Wire, right? And Lance Reddick, who played Lieutenant Daniels. So we had Michael Kay and Lieutenant Daniels on, and also one of the guys who wrote episodes of The Wire. So we built our entire show around The Wire. Another thing that no other late night talk show has ever done or would do. So that show really stands out to me because, when you want to talk about representation, right? The Wire was a show that gave so many Black actors an opportunity to excel. And take a look at all these amazing shows that people watch right now. And so many of those actors, it was The Wire, where they really gained a foothold in the industry. And so we were on The Wire tip from day one. And so, bumping like that, to me, that sort of stands out as one of those episodes where it was like a personal victory, where I was like, man, we've had prime ministers and everybody and presidents on this show, but there was a night where we did everybody who was on The Wire. To me, that's one of the moments.
Oh, that's amazing too. And yeah, it's interesting to hear, like, because I wasn't sure how much of the creative freedom you had with the hour as well. But I actually I did a segment with Ed the Sock on the show a couple years ago, and he was telling me about like the old era of Much Music and just Canadian media in general, how like in the 90s it was kind of like the Wild West. And even you kind of talking about Loud and everything, how you programmed the show and they didn't even watch it. Apparently, it's interesting how things changed.
It really was the Wild West, but, and I'm sure Ed brought this up, it was the Wild West, except we on Much Music weren't out there pillaging the neighborhoods. We were actually empowering and protecting the neighborhoods. So we were on the right side, and I was just lucky enough to be able to use the devil's music to do it. But we had so much fun, but we had so much freedom at that place. But we also was an enormous responsibility. Like, the fuckery of people on Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat and on YouTube where they do whatever they want, like cats like Jake Paul and all that. And I don't know Jake, but you know how there's always a controversy?
Yeah.
Fuckery would never have existed on Much Music because we would have beat the shit out of somebody who went on the air and disrespected the opportunity and was also so exclusive as opposed to being inclusive. Yeah, right? Yeah, so at Much, we had a really big responsibility on us. We had producers we worked with who expected us to be legitimate citizens, better citizens. We didn't have to toe the line. We didn't have to fit in. We weren't part of the establishment, even though from the outside it sure looked that way because it was a company. But it was a family-run company at the time, right? It was run by Chum, and they were still a Waters family that ran it. It wasn't a big conglomerate by any stretch. So we really got, like, the dude who owned the company used to jog into work, and we'd just go sit down and chat in his office. Like, it was still that. Yeah. That's the only place I've ever worked where it was so, you could tell it was special. Like, there's bullshit in every company, but not nearly as much there. Like, you could tell it was special. And we fought hard for people. We created a really inclusive environment long before people were talking about it as a media responsibility. Right?
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it really was incredible. I kind of look back sometime and think, I don't know what I did in a past life to be so lucky as to have that 5 years at Much Music, but I was so lucky.
Yeah, there was such a special energy from it too, and like from the host to just the presentation to it. It was like a lot of fun, and yeah, it's just kind of crazy, like walking down like John Street now, and it just kind of feels just dead,
It's the reason why I started House of Strombo. So before Much, I used to work at a radio station in Toronto called The Edge, and The Edge used to have a storefront studio at the Eaton Center. It was right at the corner, essentially at the intersection of Yonge and Shooter. So I used to do a show called Live in Toronto out of there, and Thursday 30 with the late great Martin Streak, and we had open doors. So people would come in and just hang out with us, even if there wasn't a band. They would come to see their band, but they would also come just to hang out. You could tell a lot of kids didn't want to go home, didn't have a great home life, kids who were unhomed or in compromised situations, or just people just shopping in the mall who it was their first trip downtown with their mom and they were 12, but they would come in and you could see their eyes starting to open up a little bit as to what kind of city there really is out there. If you wanted to get away. So we had a really neat environment. And I remember when I got there, there was like posts and ropes, like stanchion set up, right? And I remember I'd go in to do my show and I would take them all down. Boom, take them all down. If you want to come sit at the desk with me, you sit at the desk with me, you can do the show, you're welcome. So I used to do the show like that. That was in the 90s. Then 99, I get hired at Much Music. And Much Music, as you remember, was bonkers for that. It still had the doors, the windows, but people would knock on the windows and you'd come out and you'd meet them. And it was a really inclusive place, but you could come down and meet your favorite bands. Mm-hmm. And we thought that was really important. You know, we were covering elections and all kinds of shit. So one day I was wandering down Yonge Street. I passed the edge and it's like, I don't know what it turned into, like some kind of fucking discount cutlery store or something. I don't know what it is, or bath and beauty products or some bullshit that feeds people's insecurity. And I walked down it and I looked at them and I was like, you malakas. Then I made a right turn onto Queen Street and I was walking down Queen Street and I passed Much Music. And so I was already in that sort of angry headspace of how the fuck did these guys ruin what we tried so hard to build? And then I passed Much Music and they had boarded up the windows. Now they're doing a show called The Social and good for them. I don't know the show, but good for them, right? But it's still another exclusive environment in that you're not welcome.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, true.
Where kids across, and it's also for older people, whereas kids across the country needed a place to feel connected, especially in the era of social media where most people are filtered in bullshit in how they present themselves, or when they're being real, it's still kind of not real. Yeah. And I was like, man, Much Music and The Edge. I was like, fuck you. You don't know how hard everybody worked to make this place, to make Canadian youth feel like they were welcome. And I don't care what anybody says. The other shit that's doing that now doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Not the way Much did. And so I honestly was like, fuck you, The Edge. Fuck you, Much. I was so fucking mad that I got on the phone. So I had to walk another 10 minutes to get to my house. I got on the phone and I called a couple of friends of mine. I said, fuck it, we're doing it at my house.
Love that. I love that so much, man.
We're going to have bands. And they were like, cool, we're going to have bands. I said, no. We're going to have bands, but we're going to invite the public in. And they're like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. So I went on Instagram Live when I was in Montreal one morning. I got on Instagram and I went, hey, if you like Jimmy Eat World, holler at me.
Yeah.
People started emailing me and I wrote them back and I was just like, yeah, meet me at this park. And the park was right beside my house and I just met like 40 people. I was like, come on in, and fucking Jimmy Eat World's in my living room and they played and people's faces were, what?
Oh man, that makes my heart so warm.
It was because I was mad at The Edge and Much. Now listen, I'm not mad at the people there because business has changed and the audience has changed and blah, blah, blah. But I'm mad at the bullshit that kind of created that space. So I was like, oh, fuck it. I have skin in the game. So, as a metal guy, you would appreciate this. I went to Standing Rock, right, during when there was that big, the big resistance. So some friends and I went to Standing Rock, not on any official capacity, just to help. So we were there. It was winter as all hell, as cold as I've ever been. And I'm there for a little while. And then I get a message say, yo, how long would it take you to get back to Toronto? And I'm there in my fucking pickup truck, right?
Yeah.
With a couple of friends. They're like, we'll leave tonight. So there was a concert happening, a fundraiser. Jackson Brown, Bonnie Raitt. It was really quite lovely. They were playing The Words and the Magic of John Trudell. So I get in, I think my friend Will, it was his truck at the time. We just hauled ass all night from South Dakota, all night.
How many hours does that take?
I don't even remember, but here's what I do know is that 10 o'clock in the morning, out of my mind, exhausted, we pull into my driveway. I go inside. I really quickly just wash my face, brush my teeth. I go downstairs. The Uber pulls up and fucking James Hetfield gets out.
Holy shit.
And the guy who bought, my first Metallica cassette when I was 12, I think at the time it was Ride the Lightning I got, and then Kill 'Em All. I bought him bootlegs for $5. I just stood there, considering the night before I was just freezing cold in South Dakota. And I think it was I don't remember how many hours it was, but it was a straight drive. And there's Hetfield coming in.
Yeah, even with the lack of sleep, it must have felt like, am I dreaming right now? Is this happening?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because it's hard to explain to people who aren't from the era. It's really hard for people to comprehend what Hetfield means and what that band did. Like, people don't realize that the biggest band in the world was a metal band who never had a second of a song on the radio, never had, to that point, hadn't shot a video, never had an ounce of mainstream press, and there was no internet. There is no band in the history of the world who has pulled off what Metallica did by fucking word of mouth. They were selling out every continent, right? They played a show in Antarctica.
It was viral before like the internet, you know, just people trading tapes and everything.
Totally. There's nobody. I mean, the Grateful Dead were on the radio and played Woodstock, right?
Yeah.
Like, the Beatles were, the media were all over them. Drake the media is all over Drake. And I love all those artists. Nobody in history has done what Metallica did. And to be 12 and 14 at that time, that's like your band, right?
Yeah.
So when Hetfield came out,
for sure, yeah.
When Hetfield walked up, I was just like, I remember just like this, my arms crossed, like, holy fuck, this is awesome, man.
It's like, you're real. You're actually in kind of like the same vein. I used to work for an AV company, and on their Hardwire tour, I got an email just like, hey, do you want to set up for Metallica? And it was the fastest email I ever responded to. The lady who like books it was laughing. She was like, I've never got a response like this. It's like my phone buzzed and it just said Metallica. I'm getting goosebumps right now.
And I just right away.
No, it wasn't. Unfortunately, it was the Rogers Center one. But were you at the Opera House one?
I was at the Opera House one. Yep. And I don't know how many times I've seen Metallica, but I've seen Metallica in every decade since they've been around, and it's still, you know, it's like big stadium shows, right? Like U2 kills every time live, Coldplay kills every time live, different kinds of shows, but Metallica live, oh my god!
Yeah, it's an experience. It's like 3.5 hours,
and because it goes heavy. Because especially as Metallica's gotten older, and this is why I love the Saint Anger era of Metallica, is because a lot of people said to go, oh, fuck Saint Anger. But are you crazy? That's the album which brought them back to that insane tinny drum, mental. Thank God for that record.
Yeah, it was almost like a release where like they pretty much like had the heart of a grunge album, just like, oh, we don't give a fuck, just like,
yes,
let's not mix it, who cares?
Totally. Metallica were brutal and they were top of the charts.
Yeah,
nobody else could do that.
Actually, one of my favorite sets was a couple years back at Heavy MTL, and it was Metallica, but it was all fan voted online.
Oh wow!
It was basically just the first 4 albums like shuffled, but they played stuff they've never like played before too, which was amazing. And it was just like, oh man.
That's how James, you know, when I'd interviewed James once before, much, but that's twice actually. But that's how James kind of bought into me, was he had made some random reference from some like obscure Metallica 80s tune, and I knew the lyrics.
Yeah.
He did. I'm from then, right?
Yeah.
No, I love that band so much.
Oh, that's cool to hear, like your kind of your past. I was actually going to ask you how you got into metal and stuff like that, so that's really fucking cool. And I kind of want to jump into more about the media side of your life, because like I mentioned, I said I know you from Much Loud, but I don't know the George before that. Did you go to school to do this? Did you?
Yeah, I was a movie theater usher in the 80s. And so I thought I was going to make films. I wanted to be a director. But you know what? The truth is I'm not that ambitious a guy, and I wasn't that ambitious a kid either. Like, I grew up in the West Side, so I don't know. Where are you? What neighborhood are you in?
I'm Girard and Broadview.
So I'm a West Side boy. So Jane and Wilson, Chalk Farm, Rexdale, Malton. So I'm from the sort of sketchier, compromised West Side, right? And I don't know what other people I grew up with felt like, but most of the kids in my, like, we didn't have plans or dreams. Like, we don't get careers. We had jobs, right?
Yeah.
My grandmother, my mother, they expected me to be a bus driver or to work on the Ford assembly line plant like my father and my grandfather did. So I didn't have any aspirations to a career. It was not even a thought. In fact, I never even thought about going to university, right? So I didn't go to university. I didn't apply. I could never have afforded university. So there was no chance in the world. But I was working at this movie theater as an usher, and I wanted to make films. I just didn't know how to do it. And that back then, as you recall, it was pre-democratized technology. you weren't shooting a movie on a digital camera. There was no digital cameras. There was a fucking that shit. But
Yeah.
nobody had a Super 8. Like we didn't know, that was not in the wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make films, and so I was this usher as a teenager. And right beside the movie theater I worked at in the Woodbine Center, this mall there, was an adult learning center for Humber College. And I went to go get a course calendar there because I wanted to get my motorcycle license as a teenager. And I knew that you could do that at Humber for $200, $213 actually. And as I took the course calendar home, I saw radio production and radio broadcasting. And I thought, well, I've always wanted to be on the radio, but there was no way to get on the radio. How do you get on the radio? Everybody I talked to said, I just walked in. And I'm like, bullshit. That's not how this works, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've come across this too. People mythologize their path often.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that. So, and I didn't believe in it then. So I just said, oh, fuck it. I'll just apply to radio, whatever. But my school grades were terrible and I didn't have any money. So I was working at this movie theater, and the tuition was $900, but I got called out of a meeting. So there was like this cattle call meeting, and I sat at a desk. It was like 50 kids in this thing. I don't know how old it was, 18. Oh, by the way, I had joined the Army as well at this time.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yeah, so I just thought maybe I'll do that. And then it was just like the reserves, but I was like, fuck it, yeah, I'll join the reserves and let's see what happens. And then the head of the radio course sat down and said, so you're George? Yes. Why do you want to be in radio? I don't know. I just think I could be good at it, and I really like music or whatever. I don't remember what I said. Cool. That was it. Honestly, dude, my meeting with Humber was 4 seconds long.
Wow.
And that's not an exaggeration. Like fucking 4 seconds. So I got out and I walked down Highway 27 to go to the Woodbine Center where I was working at the theater, because it was right next door. It took a while. I go to a payphone at by the theater, and I call my mom and I go, yeah, well, I'm not getting in, because at a 4-second meeting, I'm not going in.
Yeah, they just screen you. It's like, next.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which I get it. I wouldn't let me in either. And I got a fucking letter in the mail saying you're coming to Humber, and I went, oh shit, I guess so. But I didn't really try or care the first year. And somewhere around that beginning of that second year, I thought, fuck it, I'm paying for this. I might as well. And then I got a job in my friend built a pirate radio transmitter, an illegal one, set it up inside a broom closet of a shopping mall, the Albion Mall in Rexdale. And it was this really tiny wattage one, but pre-internet, right? So he actually stole the plans to how to build a transmitter. He was a biker. I was a biker. We built it. And then he's like, I need a DJ. I went, fuck it, I'll do it.
That's sick, man.
So that's how I started my career, right? And then I did that, and then I went up to Kelowna to work, and I hosted a metal show in Kelowna in the early 90s called High Voltage. And when I got there, it was like a metal show that played Steve Vai, all due respect. It's great. I love Steve Vai. But when I got there, it was fucking Biohazard, Hatebreed. Like Hatebreed is one of my bands, right? And then Voivod and fucking Slayer. So I turned into a Super Satan show by that point, right? I was playing Anton LaVey clips and things like that.
Yeah.
Because at that time I still kind of loved King Diamond, so I was playing King Diamond, and it was, Deicide I think is kind of bullshit, but I liked it.
Yeah, it's heavy, It's like...
Yeah, okay, it's heavy, and I think he's full of shit, but I dig it in a way. I love the Misfits. I was playing the Fits in there too. Then I got a job in Toronto when I was 20. Oh, bro, I didn't know how old I was, maybe 21, 22. I got a call to become a technical operator at the Fan. They just launched the sports station.
Ah, cool.
So I came back and I did that. And then my career just kind of kept going.
Yeah, it's like you got the ball and then you just ran with it.
Well, this is it, right? I don't have any more talent or skill or any of that than anybody else. But what I do have is I am relentless. And like that Mitch Hedberg joke, man, I'm like playing tennis against a wall. Like I am relentless.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm 47 years old, and I still have the energy and the passion and the drive that I had when I started. So like I still work at that same pace. That part of me never faded. In fact, it's fucking hotter than it's ever been, right? So I got lucky that And also what I do, I got lucky that I got breaks. That people who had no reason to give a shit about me or to take an interest in me gave me a break. And you know, in anybody's career, you need a series of breaks, and you have to make the most of them. But you still have to have those breaks. And I got a lot of breaks from people who just looked at me and said, "Oh, fuck that kid, he works hard," you know, give him a shot.
Yeah, I understand that too. And I always felt like I related to you a lot. And you have actually been like a big influence on my media life. But now, like, even hearing your whole story, it's like very similar to mine. Like, I just basically didn't know what I was doing, picked up a video camera one day, moved to Toronto. That was like 10 years ago, and just kind of just working with like a lot of different underground artists and scenes. And long story short, it kind of turned into like this podcast of me telling all these stories from the scenes. And it's now it's growing where I get to talk to like some of my heroes and influencers like yourself and shit like that. So I don't know, it's been wild, but there was never a plan, you know? It was just kind of figuring out like what I wanted to do and when I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Totally. You have to. And also there's this weird bullshit that I don't know what your family situation, what your neighborhood situation was like, but there was this weird bullshit that people put on young people saying, "What do you want to do for a living?"
Yes.
It's a stupid fucking question in the world to ask a 15-year-old. Unless you're just trying to engage them and get them to think about it, then it's cool. Yeah. But my mother never asked me what I wanted to do for a living. I think once my mother looked at my report card in my life, my mother cared deeply about me, but my mother always said to me, where you work is irrelevant if you're not the kind of person that you should turn into, right? Be a good person, be a humble person. Yeah. But she never, so I never grew up with any pressure to achieve anything. Nobody expected fuck all. And I still think I'm that guy, right? So I don't, no matter what, and I know I recognize I've had a pretty dynamite career in that, and most people have never had a chance to host a metal show and a punk show, host their own late night talk show in Canada, and then host Hockey Night in Canada. Like, there's not that many people that ever get to do that, if any, right?
Yeah, no, you're the only one I know of, at least.
So yeah, I get it, right? But in my head, I'm still that guy working at the movie theater thinking, fuck, maybe one day I'll make a film. You know, you talked about getting a camera. So when I got that job at Much, I was so broke. Like, I was so broke. I was living with this girl, and the two of us couldn't afford any furniture. So we took a futon mattress frame from the garbage that we saw thrown out, just the wood slats. We put a sheet on it, and we would sleep on a sheet. We weren't even together. We just like would sleep close to each other to keep warm because we had no heat. Like, we were broke as fuck. And
oh wow.
And living in Toronto, like crazy broke. And but it sort of reinforces this idea that you got to go scrap for everything you get. It's a fight, right? So I get this job at Much. So I signed out a video camera from them. I don't think I've ever returned it. I might still have it.
That's going to be in like a Canadian museum, like for media one day.
Maybe, fuck. Yeah. I signed this video camera out. I shouldn't admit this, but I'll say it because who cares? It was a lot. I'm sure I'm past the statute of limitations. I didn't know how to edit. I got a cracked video software code. I bought a computer with all the money I had. So I would take that fucking camera. I'd walk down the street to Queen and Bathurst to the Cathedral or the Reverb, where punk and metal bands would play. I'd walk in there with a Much Music microphone and a fucking camera, and I would pick a kid going, yo, hey, film this. Boom. They would film the interview I would do with the metal or the punk band.
That's so cool.
I would go back home to my home, which was like, honestly, a 6-minute walk from the Cathedral or the Reverb. I would go home. I would plug the camera into my computer, which was in my living room, and I taught myself to edit. Part of the reason why the punk show looked the way it did and Live looked the way it did, that looked like, oh, fuck, it looks cool. Yeah, bro, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just editing it on the fly. It's also pre-Google, like really Google. So I couldn't even learn how to fucking do it. So it was all just going through all the menus. I would edit the show. I would then take it to Much Music. I would hand it to an editor, and I would say, okay, add these videos, because he had videos. He would add the videos. I would put it onto one tape. I would take the tape, walk downstairs in the basement of Much Music, hand it to the person at what was called Master Control. They would put it in another machine, press play. That's what you watched. It would go that. It would go out like that.
That's sick, man.
That's how we did Loud. That's how we did Loud on the punk show. My friend Alex Liu and a guy called The Doc, with Michael Emberley, we just fucking but it was all just like, we took shit, we figured shit out, we didn't know shit. But at the end of the day, what we did know, and this is what nobody could take away from us, was we knew the music, right?
Yeah.
We knew the music. So if you know the content and you know it to the place where no one could know it as much as you did, obviously like metal and punk, there are hardcores who know more about certain things, but we knew the fucking music. And so we knew what to play, when to play, how to play. But just our delivery was so on brand because it was actually on brand. We hadn't thought about it.
Yeah.
It was who we were.
Yeah, and that's fucking punk rock right there, man. Just like instead of like just waiting for permission to do something or even like learning all the chops or whatever, it's like that's always been the spirit. You want to make a song, just do it. And like I love how you took that influence and put it into a television show. And it reminds me also of another Canadian legend, Tom Green, when he would do the shit on his cable access, like not waiting for a shot, just doing it. Like,
dude, Tom Green is one of the greatest exports we've ever had. I went to, as a friend, I just went and hung out at his house when he did an interview, and when he had his talk show in his living room, Stone Cold Steve Austin came by, which was fucking crazy.
Oh, amazing.
Tom Green is that guy. His old Cable 10 show, we used to watch it because Rogers Cable 10 in Toronto picked it up, and we were blown. I was living with my buddy, was a guy called Adrian Conte, a guy I went to high school with. So we would just sit there and fucking drink and eat bullshit chips and fries. We'd go to the Big Slices. If you're from a certain part of Toronto, the Big Slice, we'd eat Big Slices. Watch Tom Green, and we were just like, when he painted his folks' house plaid, like all that shit.
Yeah, it was pre-Jackass and YouTube and
yep, totally. No, Tom is unbelievable. You know, it's funny though, because that, like I said, that never changed, and I hope it never changes for you. I when I decided to have bands in the house, I was like, okay, I can't convince big bands to come in the house. I can convince my friends who I've known over the years, but at some point that's going to run out. So I thought, I really want to get the Cult to play here. I want to get, Behemoth. I want to get Against Me because I loved Against Me's old early DIY videos. They were very inspirational to me in terms of how to do it. So I go to Coachella one day, and you slide an artist pass off of somebody, and I slipped it on my arm. I went backstage and I see the fucking Cult play. So I wait side stage, and Ian comes off, and he knew me from Toronto. So, and I have such mad love for the Cult that he's like, "Hey, Strombo." I'm like, "Ian, hey, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, we're coming up to Canada." I said, "Yo, man, you need to play a concert in my living room, right?" He said, "Fuck, we'd love to." And that was it. Then I left and I went, "Cool, fuck. How do I even do that?"
Yes. I love how you're still doing that too.
Right. So this is like, I'm like, fuck, how do I even do that? But I also knew that I knew how to make a music show. But what I didn't have a team who had ever worked on much music. They didn't know that. So what we did is I came home and I said, okay, let's book a bunch of bands and you're all going to learn. Because the Cult's going to is going to do this. Now, this was like a year had passed. We'd done a whole bunch of bands. I hadn't sort of forgot that Ian had said that. I get this random fucking text message going, "Yo, dude," and it's from a friend of mine who ran this label in Canada. I said, "Oh, hey, what's up?" He's like, "Oh, we just signed the Cult." I said, "Cool." Ian said the only thing he wants to do is play your living room.
Yes.
I was like, "Oh, cool. All right, so let's book it." So we booked it. Then I interview Nurgle from Behemoth. He comes to do an interview at the house, and I said to him,
I love that one.
You should play my house. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, sure, maybe one day." But he later told me he wasn't going to do it. So that's fine. Lots of people say yes, and they don't really back it up. That's cool. Yeah. Then I bump into, so then the Cult comes, plays. We tried to book the Kills. The Kills people said no, but we invited them to the Cult show because the Cult played. At the end of it, the Kills people went, "Oh, we're fucking totally doing this." Then the Kills did it. Then I was randomly in LA and I get a message from Brian Slagle, who runs Metal Blade Records. Of course, he had Metallica on the comp. And he's like, and I didn't know him personally, but we knew each other via social because he loved hockey and he knew I loved metal and all that. So I go to this dinner and fucking Nurgle is right there. And I was like, "Hey, bro, you came and did my house. You did an interview." He's like, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "Wait a minute. That Cult concert. I saw it. I love the Cult. We want to do that."
Ah, nice.
Dude, come on in.
Everything connects.
Totally. But even in my 40s, having done it for a long time and having a pretty good run, I still go that way. You still have to, because the media is a strange thing, right? And at the end of the day, you got to do all the work yourself, and your team have to do the work, and you still might not get the shot. But at least you'll have had a good time.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is really important. I looked around and fucking the Cults are playing She Sells Sanctuary in my living room. And I'm just like, boss.
Yeah.
And I reached out to some friends from high school who I haven't seen since high school. And on Facebook went, yo, remember when we used to talk about the Cult a lot? They'd be like, totally. And I said, come to my house. Here's the address tomorrow at noon. So my friends who I haven't seen for fucking decades, hey, what's up? Thanks for the invite. And fucking Ian Asprey walks in.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That shit makes me happy, man.
Yeah, that made my heart warm so much that you even like remembered like kind of like the people like who've like influenced that music on your life and shit like that, and just
Every show we did.
Yeah.
Every show we did had somebody who I remembered loved this. Because what is the point? Like I said off the top, what is the point of having these ball-in opportunities if you don't look at them not as yours, but as the thing to share?
Yeah.
Most of my career is I've been in a good spot because the things that I had been given, I don't hang on to. They're not mine. They're not yours. You know, the benefits you get, all the shit that we want from being in the public eye, you're going to get them anyway. But the thing that they're gifting you is not yours.
Yeah.
Pass it on.
Yeah, it's true. And even like as I think of your whole career and even what I loved about like the Hour and Loud, I can go on, but what you're doing is just sharing dope shit and stories of people, and I'm learning on like a very smaller level that I'm getting so much I don't know, inner joy out of giving to people these experiences, and it's a beautiful thing, man. It's cool to hear like yourself.
That line. You know that line, service never slumps. So no matter what you're going through, provided you are capable of getting up and going outside, some people can't, and that's okay. But to be in service of others never slumps. Your time will come, you will get the bounce. You might not get the bounce for fucking years, but in that time, if you are out there in service of others or of something, connecting, then you're filling up the time with good shit, and you're helping people, and you're not doing it for you. You're doing it because it's your fucking duty.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the bounce comes your way, all these skills you've built up, not even knowing you were building up skills, are going to be the thing that helps you get to that next step.
Yeah, definitely. I also think there's like a lot of power in just being genuine and just having really good intentions. Like it bleeds off into the segments too, like to use your House of Strombo as an example too. It's funny to hear that you said like your filming team didn't know what they were doing at first, but me as a filmer, like I commend those shows because I see a lot of like live concerts like on video and it doesn't have the energy. But all of like your segments, it feels like I'm in your kitchen, in your living room, in your basement.
And that's, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like you have these intentions you want to push out before you even start editing and stuff. Where
when I could have told the team how to do it, and I did. Said, here's what I want, right? But I want, because I also cared about, you know, my fam, all right, my team, and I wanted them. I knew their careers would be better if they could learn this the right way, meaning reps. You just got to get reps, right? And watching them, and especially because a lot of the cats that I worked with that I had hired, in fact, all of them, they just didn't get, metal and punk wasn't their thing, right? They were either into hip hop, R&B, synth pop, or, you know.
Yeah.
And you showcased a lot of that as well too
On the show.
Yeah, we did for sure. Yeah. And well, you know why? Because I like a lot of those artists, but also we had like the guys on our team and women on our team who liked, you know, guys who haven't shaved in 4 days, who play guitar about how much they miss you, you know, that kind of stuff. So we because that was also what was, you know, I couldn't convince big metal bands to come to the house to play a show yet because we weren't ready, right? We weren't ready to do that. So when the team learned it, it almost worked out perfectly that we got Behemoth, because I remember saying to them, okay, so I want to build inverted crosses inside, and I want inverted crosses outside on the house, and I want the lights to be off.
Yes.
And then I want and then everybody who comes in the house has to wear corpse paint. But by this point, nobody on my team thought I was talking crazy shit. They were just like, that's fucking George. All right. So I wouldn't let anybody in without corpse paint, right?
Yeah.
Even me, the crew, everybody corpse paint. And so it's fucking hilarious to me because there's this and I knew that the director was a guy called Harbinder, who's my bro, and he grew up in the same neighborhood as me. He was a shooter on Hockey Night in Canada, but also he shot the big jib camera on my talk show. And then when we had an opening for a director, I said, you're the guy. And he hadn't directed at that level. I'm like, you're the guy. You're the guy. You come up with me, right? We do this together. And he's like, cool. And then I said, okay, so I got this show, this metal show. And I knew he didn't know the music, right? But I knew he was a great shooter. And I also wanted a couple people on the team who didn't fully know the history of the band, because I wanted to see what they would catch. Surprisingly, because if you know it, you know what you're looking for, right?
Yeah. You're like, okay, this solo's coming up or whatever, but you can catch like people or whatever. Yeah.
Totally. So he sits up, right? He's got this, he's sitting beside me here. The other guy that he brought on board, and I think they'd started a business together earlier, shooting weddings when they were young, right?
Amazing.
And they got the camera, and he's got a roaming camera which spins, right? And so my curtains be projected on these hell flames. Little bit of fog machine going in the house. And then all you hear is this drone behemoth, it's the Satan, right? Which is the best one. And then the band comes up the stairs from my basement, and they're wearing all that stuff and the fucking makeup and the hats and shit, and they look super badass. But my shooters are mega pro, so they're like this, right? They're ready to shoot. And then you hear this like, behemoth is about loneliness and all this stuff. And they're just like, they're in the pocket. But they don't know what blackened death metal sounds like.
Amazing.
This moment where I just said to them, I said, okay, when the guitars hit, because I knew the song, the singer's going to start singing right away. And just be there for that. I swear to God, dude, it was like one of the moments, because it might have been my favorite moment of my career in this 40 minutes in my house, because and then Norgle's like starts screaming, and the fucking camera operator's right there on his face, and he just looks at me like this. He goes, "Holy fuck!" And the other shooter beside me, Harb, who's directing it, is standing up top, and Harb just looks at me and he just goes.
That must have been even more fun than watching the band, seeing the reactions.
Oh, because I knew too that we hadn't even unveiled the inverted cross, and the band didn't know. So we built this big satanic cross above their head, and like 2/3 of the way through the show is where's my actual career highlight. So I'm sitting on the subwoofer in my living room, and I'm just sitting there, and the band has been fucking brutalizing our ears with this music for 35 minutes, whatever, or 29 minutes. It's just fucking so metal, and I'm so into it. And everybody's blown away because you never get to see a band like this.
Yeah, especially in a basement too.
Yeah, totally. It was actually my living room and kitchen. So my living room and kitchen. And there's this moment where the song breaks down, and Nurgle just says, and you should go watch this. It's like 29 something. Nurgle says, "All right, Toronto, Legions of Toronto. We had a great fucking privilege playing with you here tonight, right? We are behemoths from Poland. Stay strong. We will return." And then he just yells, "Hail Satan!" Sean, I was just sitting there like this, and I just went, this is it. Like I knew it. I knew it that I'll never have this moment again. The band kicks in, the camera operators catch them in full fucking synchronicity, and then the smoke machines blow up, and then the red cross built in my ceiling lights up upside down, and the flames, and I'm just looking at all this going, I don't believe in an afterlife, but if there is one, I just hit it. Right?
Yeah.
I just hit it.
I can't even imagine like the goosebumps you must have got, like with just that being in your house and that band is like,
Oh my
And it's
God.
hard to explain to people because you know this because you love the music, but like I said, I've had a lucky career and I've done big things and I've done small things and I've done things that have worked really well. I've done things that have bombed big time. And none of it, like the wins and the losses are whatever. I don't really care because it's a long-term thing. But in that moment, the 12-year-old, I guess I would have been about 18 when I got into the Norwegian stuff, right? The black metal and of course the Swedish death metal and all that. But the 12-year-old was still in me when Nurgle chants Hail Satan. And then the next thing I thought was, my mother's a born again Christian. I'm so grateful she's not on the internet and doesn't have a cell phone and no one can tell her what just fucking happened here.
Yeah.
It would destroy her. It would absolutely fucking destroy her. But it was, I've never felt that in the pocket. Then when Nurgle chanted that, the smoke and the cross and the people and the fucking guitars, and only a metalhead would really know.
Yeah.
Because it was so thick that, oh fuck, it killed me.
Yeah. Oh man, that's amazing too. And even if for people, if they're watching this and don't follow metal music or whatever too, what's interesting about that band too, it's he even says like just the whole symbolism of Satan and everything. It doesn't mean he actually believes in the devil. It's just a metaphor for freedom, which is beautiful.
So beautiful. Yeah.
Real Satanists don't actually believe in Satan.
There
is no Satan.
There's a great documentary on it on Netflix right now too.
Oh, the Hell Satan one.
Yeah. They're just trolls. Like, it's
when I interviewed the head of the Church of Satan, he said, we're just extreme atheists who have a better flair for drama,
Yeah, that's amazing. Even like you, like it's cool like how you've always like you're so connected to your roots of everything. And when you were on like CNN or Hockey Night in Canada, do you ever like stop and think of the moment when you were just pirating like radio in a closet and like, or do you get caught up in the big production or whatever? Because that's so inspiring to me, that like your whole journey through this and how that's like the beginning seed of everything. I'm always, and maybe this is what it is when you grow up a neighborhood boy, you're always from your neighborhood. So no matter what you do, right, you're always the neighborhood kid. So I think, no matter, and I've had some pretty ridiculously lucky experiences in my life for sure. And I have been granted much privilege because of it. I know that I live a different life, but my DNA is the neighborhood boy. And so there are moments where, I sit back and go, fucking crazy. Crazy. I got to interview, I did the only TV interview, I think in 40 years, maybe more, with Prince Charles. So they said, hey, can you come to England? I actually, honestly, I had the summer off. I fucking bought a $500 kayak. I was in California and I went kayaking on the ocean. I'm like, I just need to get in shape. I need to get away from work, whatever. I had my phone inside my fucking jacket pocket on the ocean. And I got a call. I was like, hey, I'm like, yeah. So the Prince Charles interview, like he will do it. Do you want to do it? And I was like when? And it was like a Monday. And they said, maybe Wednesday or Thursday. And I went, oh, fuck.
Hey, so no word of a lie. I turned the kayak around. I paddled back to the shore, put it in the back of my pickup truck. No, it was my El Camino. Put it in my El Camino. I drove. I have a place in LA that I've been living in for a long time. I drove into town, into Hollywood. I walked into a clothing store and I went, okay, I'll take that. I'll try this on. Okay, cool, great, thank you. I went home. I showered. I put it in a backpack, and I went to the airport.
Wow.
And then, so I'm in Clarence house where the Prince lives. And so they're escorting me through this other, because they're all kind of connected. They're escorting me through this room, and I looked at it and I saw this fireplace with a hearth that had old. It's clearly very old, and had HA carved into it, and on the end it had H. And I said, why does it have HA and why does that have H on the other side of the fireplace? And then the person who was taking me in said, well, this fireplace was built by Henry VIII, and he got it for him and his wife, him and Anne Boleyn, but she was dead by the time they finished the fireplace. So they just put an H. And I looked at him and went, are you serious? He's like, oh. This is fucking weird, man. So in my head, it was I kind of went, Jesus Christ, what a strange career. What a weird.
I love it. I love how you have like all these moments where it's just like, what is life right now?
All the time.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. But, you know, the secret to it is, and I was very lucky, speaking of one of those moments, I remember I got to spend some time with Neil Armstrong, and the first person that walked on the moon, and I was standing beside him at the end of this event, and I'm just leaning against the wall. I'm tired. He's there. I said, good night. He's like, yeah, it was a good night. Cool. I said, it's fascinating to me how you say, he was telling the story of going to the moon, and he kept referring to himself as a technician going to the job site.
Interesting.
I said, that's interesting. And he said, yeah, he goes, that's one of the ways that you don't get overwhelmed by the situation. And I just went, well, if fucking Neil Armstrong says he's a technician going to the job site, then I'm just a technician going to the job site.
Neil dropping bars right there. You know?
What is he? Quick, check this out. I can't tell the story, but I'll just say this. He told a story. I was at this thing.
Yeah.
He told a story. There was a few of us around. I can't believe this even happened. I can't believe I was even there. And he never mentioned the word the moon. He just said technician on the job site. We were just sitting outside talking, just at this thing. And then Neil says, like after 20 minutes into this amazing story about the day.
Yeah.
And they said, and so there we were. And he goes, there I was on the moon, just as the moon appeared over the horizon. And he fucking timed it because he knew it, right? He knew when the moon was going to show up, and he was doing it for effect. And he's like, so there I was on the moon appears. We're just like, fuck off, man, that's crazy.
Just using that as special effects to add to his story.
Yeah, totally.
Yo, that's cool. What a showman. I never knew that.
I didn't know that either. But then you see the little smirk, right? The little glint in the eye. And you're like, yeah, you're special. Of course he's special. He's fucking Neil Armstrong.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's amazing. And yeah, George, we're almost at an hour. I feel like I could talk to you for a week.
Well, I'm still good for a little while, so you do whatever you want. But I don't want to bore you with. I'm telling too many long stories.
I'm loving this though too, man. But yeah, even like again, I want to appreciate I appreciate your time and everything today. Also to let people know if they want to check out all things that is George, it's on Strombo.com. Subscribe to the YouTube. He's got an app for the weekly Strombo show. And again, like I actually want to ask you about doing the Strombo show, like every week. You're committed to this, and like kind of what keeps you going after like all these years of just doing this.
Well, see those records behind me? I mean, I've got stacks of hard drives filled with music, and I just love playing records. When I finally went to Humber College and I didn't know what I was going to do, it occurred to me in that moment like a truth. And sometimes you get the truth right away, and no matter where you are in your journey, that first truth is the truth. And the same truth for me is playing songs on the radio at night. If I could have made a living doing that, I'd have done it. And I did I wasn't making a living in radio because you fucking, there's no money, but I had fun and I learned how to do it. Playing songs on the radio brings me immense joy.
Yeah. Is that like your place of zen? Just like nighttime music and then boom, doesn't feel like work. It's just, you're just
totally. If I could, I can't tilt the computer because it's locked into this thing, but the ceiling lights in my house, like some of them have fallen out and are dangling because I play it so loud in here. The vibrations shake the lights out of my house. So I do these DJ sets on the weekends from here during the Cove and during the big 1-9, and I have it so loud in here, and I just do it on Instagram. If you're watching, cool. If you're not watching, cool. I'm just playing, and especially for the Instagram, I was watching all these DJ sets live, but I found that a lot of the DJs were just playing. They were still doing DJ sets like they were in a club.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, yo, bro, dude, play the fucking hits. So I decided, I just one night without planning it, sat down, I got my 808 here and I just fucking boom, bang. I just started playing grunge classics, hit after hit after hit after hit. And then I was like, holy fuck, I feel really good. Like I feel good playing these songs. So I do it because it's the reason why I do this on the Strombo show. It's just, it feels great. You know, what could be better than like somebody at home for the first time hearing a song that could maybe be the song that plays at their wedding or their funeral or becomes a song. Like, well, that's the gift that's been given to me or to you. That's our gift. We have to pass it on.
Yeah, it's all energy and just sharing that, and good beyond energy, good energy, which is I'm all about, man. And
the media is full of bastards, man. It's full of bastards, and you can't be one of them. You can't be one of them. You got to make a choice, right?
Yeah, it's so
great
true.
people in it too.
I even see like so many interview channels up right now, and I'm kind of connected to like the hip hop scene, battle rap and stuff like that. And the way they interview people, it's like they're digging for drama and not really like putting people like saying what's good about them,
You know, and
It's
I
an
find
interesting, it's an interesting era for that.
Yeah, and that's what's getting like all the hits and stuff. But kind of in my position too, I don't know, like I mentioned earlier, like I'm influenced by guys like you, guys like Ed, Tom Green, and I'm just gonna keep doing my thing, even if it's a slower burn or whatever. But because I think it's important, you know.
like
The key to a burn isn't the speed of it; it's the duration, right? It's the duration. So take a look at who has careers that have lasted a long time and are varied and are still relevant, right? Those are the ones that aren't out there tearing people down. Unless you're talking about Fox News. When I said the media are bastards, I mean the companies and the shareholders, right? Like, and the shittiness and how, you know, the racism and all that stuff that exists. So I understand the clout chasing game that everybody does in hip hop media now. I get it. It would be disingenuous for me to do it because, I mean, I used to make fun of bands on Much Music back in the day, and I still feel terribly about that. Because I was like, what the fuck was I 27 years old thinking I knew? You know, I was stupid. I was a kid. Other people want to do it. Other genres, that's a thing right now. I have no judgment on it, but it's not how I built my career, really. Because when I did it, I was also, the reason I was attacking some bands is because I was building up all these bands. And I realized the building is way more interesting than the tearing down. So I abandoned that and went straight to the build. Look, you still got to do jokes and be funny, and you're gonna have point of view and value. I get all that. There's room for, you don't have to be fucking super sweet all the time.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
But in your career, if you are not, like, what's the point of talking about somebody to somebody who's had a shitty day at home, shitty day at work? They put on your podcast. Are you making them stupider? Are you making them feel worse about themselves? Are you making them feel worse about the world? I'm not talking about the cloud chasing stuff. I just mean media in general.
Yeah. Just being conscious of what you're projecting.
But you also have to challenge them to be better and more open and all that other stuff. So you're not like just being there. We're not there to enable people's bad behaviors. We're there to fucking move the culture ball forward. And I always liked that. Metal was really punk. But so metal to me was why I always knew I was going to be okay. And punk was what made me want to make sure that you were okay. Right? And I feel so lucky that in the late 70s, early 80s, when I was really listening to music as a kid, the fucking metal and the punk had zero interest in opting in to brand culture into the system.
Yeah, they were just on their own lane, you know?
I don't want to fucking, like, this idea that everybody wants to fucking opt into a brand. I was like, oh my God. I get it, but also, oh my God.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the trend now. It's almost like people kind of doing things because they see somebody else doing it, but they just become a watered down version of whatever that person's doing and not like kind of going in their own.
And I ain't mad at hip hop for it because of this reason. And living in America for as long as I have over the years, the systemic racism is so insane there and so clearly dangerous that there are a lot of young kids who, thanks to Soulja Boy and SoundCloud and Instagram, they're buying houses with cash because they're doing it their own way now. So I have respect for that.
Yeah.
Right. And the industry didn't pay attention to them for a long time. And now they're out there getting fucking paid.
Yeah.
So good for them.
That's almost punk rock on their own too.
100%.
Like
they're just not, but lyrically it's not.
Yeah.
Everything else is.
But
lyrically it's a different path.
Yeah, definitely. But George, I want to say too, once this COVID's over, if I catch you at a power trip show or like anything like that, I'm giving you a hug and buying you a beer, man.
I'm down. It'll have to be in O'Doul's. You know who I want to do next? And I'll take that. Thank you. Is the next band I want in here is Creeping Death.
Ooh, yeah. They're good.
My two favorite metal bands. So Power Trip is like, I think, I love them. But of the records that came out at the end in last year, Creeping Death and Venom Prison the Venom Prison album is so amazing. The Creeping Death records. So those are the two that I just gotta get those artists in here.
Yeah. Also, shout outs to my pal Ola Mazuka. She actually reps Creeping Death when they're in Canada as a publicist. So
she set up an interview with me and Trey.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, she's the legend, and she's been helping the show a lot. So I just want to send some love to her as well.
Ola's metal. Ola's fucking metal
to the core.
I love Ola.
Again, lots of people know her from the hip hop scene as well too. But we've had some deep conversations. Even she grew up just shredding guitars and playing Death and everything. What a woman.
Ola's amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, shout outs to her. Shout outs to you, George, man. Again, thank you so much. Always projecting energy of excellence and just being an awesome guy and spending time with me today, man.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, man. Well, anytime.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I'm going to let you get back to writing, man. I hope you have a great fucking day. And yeah, again, thank you.
Good to see you, my friend. Much love to you. Thank you.
To the Creative Imbalance Podcast can burn in hell.